Good morning. This is Don Burke with the Environmental Stewardship Initiative, and I will be your moderator. I want to welcome you to today's webinar on EPCRA Tier 2 reporting. Our webinar is scheduled from 10 a.m. until noon. We'd like to provide an update to everyone regarding DEQ's public-facing customer service due to the COVID-19 pandemic. As of yesterday, Tuesday, March 24th, 2020, all DEQ office locations are closed to the public. The limited business that must be conducted face-to-face will be completed by appointment only. The slide you are seeing provides a link to the DEQ contact information website. For permitting questions, please reach out to your DEQ contact if you have an application in-house. Otherwise, please call the applicable regulatory program main phone number or your regional office main contact number. This reduction in public access limits exposure of both the public and our staff to protect the health of the communities we serve. These actions are necessary to facilitate customer service while balancing reduced staffing levels implemented to follow current CDC and NCD-HHS guidance to telework where feasible and to implement social distancing. DEQ staff are still working their normal schedules and are generally available via phone or email from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. You can stay up to date on DEQ business hours, facility closures, the cancellation or postponement of meetings, public hearings, and comment periods by accessing the DEQ website or following DEQ on social media channels, especially Twitter. Site-specific instructions will be posted at the entrance points for each of our locations should you need to visit us in person. We would like to thank Terry Albrecht and the Waste Reduction Partners for assisting ESI staff by providing our outreach today via the GoToWebinar. One second, we'll advance this slide. Thank you for your patience. Again, we'd like to thank Terry Albrecht and the Waste Reduction Partners for assisting ESI staff by providing our outreach today via the GoToWebinar and also their partners, the Land of Sky Regional Council. WRP and the ESI are both part of the NC Department of Environmental Quality, which has a mission to support pollution prevention strategies and is actively promoting hazardous waste and hazardous material reductions. We are very fortunate to be collaborating with the North Carolina Department of Public Safety's Emergency Management section on the webinar, and we have Josh Langdon with us today as our featured speaker regarding EPCRA Tier 2 reporting in North Carolina. Here is a glimpse of today's agenda. After some housekeeping issues, we'll conduct a couple of brief polls and then hear a little bit about the ESI and WRP for those who have not yet joined the program. Then we'll jump right into Josh's presentation. We'll have a question and answer session for the last segment of the webinar. As mentioned, just a few housekeeping items. If you have any technical difficulties, please give Terry a call and he can help you troubleshoot. His number is listed on this slide, so you might want to jot it down. That's 828-251-7475. If you have audio issues using the audio through your computer, you can use your telephone by switching the audio selection. Just go to the audio tab in the webinar controls box and click phone. A phone number and code will then be shown for you to use to access the webinar. To prevent feedback and unintended background noise, all attendees will be muted throughout the webinar. We are recording the session today and will also send out the slides as well as a link to the recording to all registered attendees as well as to the ESI listserv. Feel free to share these. We encourage you to submit your questions anytime during the webinar. We will be sharing these questions with Josh during our question and answer session at the end of his presentation. So before we get started, we're going to conduct a couple of polls to learn a little more about our audience. These polls will last approximately 20 to 30 seconds. First poll, which sector best describes your organization? Please select one. Okay, it looks like 56% of our attendees today are in manufacturing, second, 36% in government, and consulting and other rounded out at 8%. We do appreciate that. Let's go to poll number 2. Is your facility subject to EPCRA reporting? It looks like we've settled out to, wow, across the board. Approximately 44% lead the way with both 311 and 313, 39% Section 311, 17% other reporting such as 302, 304, 313, and 11% for Section 313. So thank you very much. Okay, you don't need it. All right, for those who are unfamiliar with the ESI, we are a voluntary assistance and recognition program within the Department of Environmental Quality. We have almost 200 member sites spread across the entire state. There is no cost to join. Our members are committed to continually improving their environmental performance. There are 3 levels of participation: partner, rising steward, and steward, all of which agree to submit an annual report on the progress made toward environmental goals you set for your organization. Results reported by our members in 2018 are summarized here. And of course, at the bottom, you can see a total cost savings was well over $6 million for 2018. Here's a fun splash screen of the organizations who are part of the ESI. Some of the benefits of ESI participation include networking with these awesome folks through information events like today's webinar, on-site benchmarking events, EMS training sessions, and our annual conference. Our stewards, who are the highest level of the program, also agreed to mentor the other members in the program. In addition, the ESI provides free training and assistance on environmental management systems. And our members are each assigned a coach to help you navigate the program and to help answer any questions you may have, including connecting you with resources like the Waste Reduction Partners or DEQ Regulatory Program staff. And WRP is a group of retired scientists and engineers who provide energy, water, and waste reduction assistance. Like the ESI, WRP is part of the Division of Environmental Assistance and Customer Service within DEQ. However, they are operated in partnership with the Land of Sky Regional Council. WRP services are typically at no cost. To learn more or discuss your needs, feel free to talk to your coach or contact Taylor Albrecht, whose contact info is on this page. Okay. Now it gives me great pleasure to introduce our speaker, Josh Langdon, the Hazardous Materials Coordinator with the North Carolina Department of Public Safety. I know you'll benefit from his presentation. Josh?
Hey, like I said, I'm Josh Langdon with North Carolina Department of Public Safety Emergency Management. And as you can imagine, we've been pretty busy lately, and I'd like to take some time today to explain to you our EPCRA program we've got going on. It's kind of a one-person show, me. I'll tell you about myself a little bit first. I grew up here in North Carolina, over in Johnston County, if you're familiar with it. And as soon as I could, I joined the military. Just wanted to get out of here. And spent 15 years as an explosive ordnance disposal technician. Went all around the world experiencing every kind of hazardous material you can think of, chemical, biological, radiological, lots of explosives and stuff. And that's where I got my background, working with hazmat or in chemicals, all that stuff in general. Moved back here, and I've been with North Carolina Emergency Management for the past 4 years, managing the EPCRA program. You can see my job title is Hazardous Materials Coordinator. I like to tell people that's exactly what I am. I coordinate. I don't particularly do anything. I haven't suited up in 5 or 6 years, but I can help people find people to suit up or help spread information or connect someone with another person that needs to do that. I'm just kind of putting the pieces together. So one thing that is kind of hard to do is sit through a EPCRA briefing. I tell people the only thing harder than sitting through one of those is being the guy that has to stand up there and give the briefing. It's pretty dry stuff. It can get a little redundant, and I'm just going to breeze over the different parts of it, and at the end I can answer any questions if you want to get more specific on any of it. The program is broken down. What we're going to do today is talk about EPCRA, and we generate funds from that. I'm going to explain how we spend those funds. Big part of that is our regional response teams. These are the big, huge semi-tractor trailer trucks that we got across the state. That takes up over half of the money that we have. And being part of EPCRA, I want to harp on LEPCs a little bit, local emergency planning committees. So we'll start with an example. EPCRA came about back in the 80s because of a large incident in India. A lot of people died from it. A lot of people are still dying today from that release. And moving forward into what EPCRA covers and everything, I like to use this modern day example of what good EPCRA reporting can help us do. So if you look at the photo there, that is a chemical plant in Texas. Remember in 2017, Hurricane Harvey came through and dumped an unprecedented amount of water. These areas around that you see inundated with the flood waters, these are 500-year flood plains. You don't expect to get several foot of water in something like that. So this plant was, along with other things, making a lot of organic peroxides that required refrigeration. Needed to be like -20 or so to remain non-reactive. There's a circle there over where their refrigeration facility is, so they've got backups. They have the power run in from the power company, so if it fails, they've got backup generators. Well, the backup generators failed, and they moved to some refrigerated trucks, and I mean, they're doing what they can out there. And this is what happens once it got above temperature. You can see there was a fire and a large plume extending over the major highway in the area. And I ask anyone, if you're interested, this is a really good story. If you look on their Wikipedia page, just type in Arkema plant, that goes day by day, hour by hour, the steps that they made. And looking at that bubble you see on the screen there's a lot of property owners and people that live in those areas affected by this. And part of EPCRA is anyone in that area should be able to point at that plant and say, hey, I want to know what's out there, and I want to know what's being done to protect us from that. So EPCRA, passed in 1986, is in response to the concerns regarding environmental and safety hazards posed by the storage of toxic chemicals, any chemicals really. And we will review the major provisions of EPCRA. These are the 4 areas that contain the meat and potatoes of it. Have in front of it the numbers associated with it, 3.1, 3.2, 3.03. Don't get too wrapped up in those. They're kind of hard to remember, and some of them overlap with others. But of these provisions, let's go over emergency planning first. This is covered under 301 in the EPCRA. So part of this is each state has to establish their own emergency response commission. In North Carolina, we have one. It's called the State Emergency Response Commission, the CERC for short. They are in charge of making sure each county has their own local emergency planning committee. And it doesn't have to be by county. Some states do it by area, divide the state up, make large ones. We've went with counties in North Carolina, but we've allowed counties to join with their neighboring counties to do regionals. So we have some that are up to 5 counties per LEPC. And what they are charged with, among other things, under Section 303, is the emergency response plan for each community. That includes knowing what chemicals are stored where, what is going across the roads, the railways, and how the county is going to respond in event of an emergency with these chemicals. Most of our counties have really good emergency response plans developed with their LEPC. They're generally a appendix to the county's emergency plan is where they're found at. And these are required to be submitted for approval to the State Emergency Response Commission annually. And those come to my desk and we review them and we help everyone update them throughout the years. So 301 through 303, we got 302 in there. That is an extremely hazardous substance reporting, an EHS. These are the baddies of the bads out there. This is the stuff that even having 10 pounds of it on site, you need to report. All this information is contained in the EPA's list of lists. They had so many lists that they had to make a list of their lists so you could find what you were looking for. It contains all your Tier 2, your EHS, CERCLA, TRI. All the thresholds you're going to need to know are contained in that document. And it's pretty easy to find. Just type in EPA list of lists in your search engine and it'll be one of the first things that come up. So moving on, we have emergency release notifications. That would be Section 304. So along with all of your National Response Center notifications, any release of a hazardous substance requires an immediate notification. And I capitalize immediate because there's no time frame associated with immediate. No one will define it. It is as soon as possible after you notice the incident. I can tell you if it's over 15 minutes, they're going to start asking questions on that. Generally, the way this occurs is, let's say a tanker truck flips over, or it's transportation. Let's go with storage. Let's say a forklift punctures a tote at an industrial site and a chemical starts leaking out. You're going to take the immediate steps, of course, to save life and limit the impact of it. What happens, people call 911. The 911 knows that our state 24-hour ops center gets these notifications. It goes over to them. We have a cadre of our staff, someone's on call all times, and we'll route that call the way it needs to go. It goes to local emergency management, and we do the initial NRC notification is done in concert with that. So all of that initial, hey, we've got something that's a release, you're not always going to know how much you released, but you know you need to immediately let someone know. It's okay to make an estimate. 3 or 4 notifications. Generally, a few days later, we'll see a follow-up to the emergency release notification saying, hey, we reported on this date that we dropped 500 gallons of mystery substance. Upon review, it was only 40 gallons, and that's below the quantity of the report. That happens all the time, and it's good to see that, people being proactive and doing their cleanup and follow-up, realizing, hey, this wasn't as much as it was originally reported. Of course, that goes the other way also. They would make an initial notification saying, hey, we lost 20 pounds of this. Once we checked our levels, we noticed it was 500 pounds. We understand that's how things work. We use a online software for EPCRA reporting. It's through the University of Texas, Dallas, called ePlan. They are at erplan.net. If you so wish to do so, 304 emergency release notifications can be made through there. I'll tell you, I haven't seen one yet. I've been doing it for 4 years. I've seen no one do it through ePlan. Most of the time, they won't they want it on paper and want a certified mail receipt due to legal reasons backing it up, but it's there if anyone needs it. That's 304. Let's get into the bread and butter, 311, 312, chemical storage reporting. This is the part most people are familiar with. It has a bunch of different names, Tier 2 reporting does. SARA Title 3, EPCRA, 312 reporting, E-Plan. People just call it their E-Plan because that's where they go in to do it, but 312 is the section that covers storage. Any hazardous substance that you have over 10,000 pounds of needs to be reported annually under 312 Tier 2 reporting. So what is a hazardous substance? Anything that has an SDS associated with it when you receive it from that manufacturer. So what about hand soap? Would you think that is a hazardous substance? Absolutely it is. If you have 10,000 pounds of hand soap, that needs to be reported. And people say, well, who's got 10,000 pounds of hand soap? Well, hospitals do. Distribution centers can, or hand soap manufacturing places will have quantities of these things that require reporting. So 10,000 pounds across the board. If it has an SDS and you've got 10,000 pounds of it, I need to see that in a report by March 1st of each year. And the reporting covers extremely hazardous substances, but if you remember back when I was talking 302, they're covered under their own section there. There are currently 355 substances categorized as EHSs, and those thresholds can be down as low as 5 pounds for some of the stuff that's out there. The most common one that's reported would be, well, anhydrous ammonia, but people don't realize forklift batteries contain roughly 70-30% lead and acid. Sulfuric acid is an extremely hazardous substance, and its threshold is 500 pounds. So usually one battery-powered forklift will put you above what you need to report for a EHS. You need a 302 for your acid on that. Hazardous substances, talked about those. And one question that comes up is, I've got a lubricant, let's say, for a machine that creates yarn. It is 99% water and 1% some sort of wax. And I have over 10,000 pounds of it. So does that need to be reported? Because I could sit here and drink a cup of this and be fine. All that goes back to your answer is in the HAZCOM standard. If that manufacturer is providing an SDS, it does need to be reported. If you get it from a different manufacturer that does not provide an SDS, you don't need to report it then. It's just the way the HAZCOM standard works, and sometimes manufacturers overdo it with the SDSs. I've seen an SDS for a door before. They needed one because someone had stubbed his toe on it, and we need an SDS associated with the injury. So this guy made an SDS for doors, and so I told him they were required to report them, and so he counted up all of his doors. Finally, we got to the bottom of that, though. Moving on to the next section, 313. In everything I went over prior, North Carolina follows the federal standard, the federal thresholds, all the limits that they have set up, the reporting guidelines. We go with them and have an avenue set forward to collect fees, and we'll go over that shortly too. On the 313, I will admit that this is one of our weakest areas as a state hazmat group. One of my goals is to improve on this moving forward. So 313, better known as TRI, this is for when your processes or manufacturing require a release, either into the air or into water. they must be permitted through North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality, whether it be through the water or the air. And the EPA has a website set up, and July 1st of each year, you have to report to them. And give me 1 second, please. Mute it.
Yeah, that's all it did was hit speaker. Is it back on? I believe it is. Okay. You headset? Yeah. Okay.
Hey, okay, back. Audio difficulty. Yeah, audio. We had a little issue there. It's resolved now. We're going to move forward. Toxic release, as long as it's reported by July 1st of each year to the EPA, North Carolina has no local tracking on it. We don't look at it at the state level. I do get the report from them. We have, I think it's 755 or 744 TRI sites in North Carolina. As long as the Form R is getting done, that's kind of where we are with it right now. If anyone needs any help, I'll refer them to the EPA on that one. So, like I was saying, with the Tier 2 funds, we get about 1.2 million in receipts annually. Through North Carolina, we just hit 9,000 Tier 2 facilities this year, right within like 40 up or down of 9,000. And for the past 3 years, it's been averaging about 1.2 million. What do we do with that money? Well, that money comes from hazardous material storage, so that has to go by statute back into a hazardous material program. So you need employees to do that, 6 full-time employees in our hazmat group. That takes $347 for the salary. To use ePlan to file online, and the convenience fees we get paid to allow people to use credit cards, that's $120,000 each year. It's $90,000 for ePlan and $30,000 for the charges we get. We also take $100,000 of the money each year, and the local emergency planning committees, we give them grants. There are non-competitive grants where if they just raise their hand, they say, I'm an active LEPC and I'd like some money, we'll give them $1,000. And we divvy up the rest of the money. And if they want to do a hazmat exercise or some training, we'll fund those things also. These are all of last year's numbers. And you'll see the big spender down at the bottom, $772,000. That's how much it costs for North Carolina Regional Response teams. And we'll go over them in a minute or two. But trying to be transparent with our money, I think we're doing a decent job with it. The regional response teams, you'll see there's 7 of them. We've got them divided up across the state. These are the big trucks. Says NC Hazmat Regional Response Team on it. They've got anything in them that they're going to need to respond to a spill. These are highly trained men and women that are equipped with the latest stuff that they need. This is why we invest so much money in it. I don't like to brag, but whenever any state is looking to set something up, hardly any states have anything of this caliber. When they're looking for it, they come to us and look at what we got. We're fortunate to be able to fund it through this Tier 2. I think it gives back from, who we got the money from. Like, hey, if something goes wrong, these are the people you want responding to your facility. Local missions, they did 1,787 of them last year. And by local mission, that is where they're stationed out of. They're responding to their own community. So Wilmington has an RRT, so anything goes on in Wilmington, they'll respond there. Again, with your Raleigh, Greensboro, where they're all located, they're generally parts of local fire department there, so part of that is moving out. Outreach missions, if your facility has a large amount of chemicals in it, say anhydrous ammonia, and we will link you up with the RRT in your area, and they can come out, show you their truck, look around the site. The first time they see an area doesn't need to be the first time they're responding to it. So outreach is a big area of what they do. Sometimes when they call in, the local people will just need tech advice. These guys, there's a school they're going to in a couple months, hopefully, where they have live agent. They actually release some chlorine. They look at a chlorine cloud going across the field and squirt it down with their hoses and stuff. That you can call, and at no charge, they will advise you on what they think the best course of action is. A lot of times the best course of action is, hey, we need to go out there and take care of this. But 2 times it was, hey, this isn't as bad as you think, do this, and move forward. Statewide missions, that is anything that's not a local mission. So a lot of the big ones is a tanker of fuel flip over into a ditch, and it'll be on fire or something. They'll go out, put it out, and they're able to drill into the tank, tap the tank, pull all the product off of that vessel, put it in a bladder, and leave it out there. Now, these are response people. They get out there, stop the emergency. They will go out there, plug a hole, and then go. Once that's their part's done, they'll leave. They'll give you advice, but they're not there to be in charge of anything. They're not there to do any remediation. So kind of getting a warm turnover from, hey, we've got the site secured, nothing's leaking, you've got a bunch of gunked up stuff in that ditch, but we put a cofferdam down. Moving from there into the appropriate agency for remediation is sometimes difficult, and it's one of the areas we're working on. Local emergency planning committees, as called for by EPCRA, these are my little babies. I love them. Part of my responsibility is going out to these and making sure they're doing everything they need to do to maintain their active status. When I started, we were pretty low, but in January of this year, we were able to approve 99 counties and 1 tribal emergency planning committees for the year. So I got 1 county to go. It's not looking bad at this time. The requirements, each year in about October, we'll send out a fillable document. There are 12 core competencies that an LEPC must achieve, and those are all wrote out in EPCRA. It's not just stuff we're making up. It outlines you need to meet at least once a year. You have to have members of you have to have law enforcement, health officials, local officials, fire department. It lists everyone that has to be invited. Sheriffs should be coming. They have to have bylaws. They have to have minutes and fill out this form. And I take that list in the first State Emergency Response Commission meeting annually, present it to the commission, and they vote to approve it. They've approved it every time I presented it, so it's not really difficult, but having that document is important. Strength, we have some really strong LEPCs out there working on doing those emergency plans for their communities, like I had said before, and B, just looking at stuff in their county that they need to watch over. And so a few examples is 1 county got with a hazardous waste disposal company. It's the place when you have to ship stuff off. This is who takes it and disposes of it. They did a community hazardous materials amnesty day. So if you had a bunch of old batteries, a bunch of old paint, some weird chemicals Grandpa had left out in the shed, you could bring them in and they would dispose of them. That kept them out of the landfill or who knows where some of this stuff would go. Other things, they're doing lots of exercises. So that grant money I mentioned earlier, they can apply for up to $10,000 to do an exercise. $10,000 will get you a pretty decent exercise. So one county I was in, they partnered up with a chicken processing plant and did an exercise. They had just built on a new wing, and for their refrigeration bought out about 70,000 pounds of anhydrous ammonia to keep that chicken cold. And they were able to engage the RT, the local fire department, the emergency managers, the police, like everybody went out there and did this exercise. They did a tabletop and then they did a full scale on it also. The chicken farm was able to feed everyone from their test kitchen a bunch of chicken. It was awesome. That always makes everyone happy to attend any sort of exercise. But it was a good relationship building thing for everyone out there. And any company, I encourage them to be a member of the LEPC, the public meetings. If you need help finding them, I'm the person to help you do that too. Some companies too, one out in Wilson, they were able to cost share an exercise. They got 10,000 from the LEPC. Their company put up another 10,000, and they had this day-long exercise where they went through everything. Full school, they had smoke generators making plumes out there and just lots of good stuff. Some LEPCs are stronger than others, but the best ones I've found out there, the chairperson of the committee is an actual member of industry in that community, whether it be some sort of a plant or a chemical place, all that stuff. Those are some of the stronger ones that I've seen out there. So the future of the EPCRA program, one thing I need help with is people aren't aware of EPCRA. The people that aren't reporting, that call me up like, oh my goodness, I've got all these chemicals, I've never reported them. I just want the information. I don't really care about the money side of it, although we need it. I can't say that in front of my boss, but we need the information for the other stuff that we do with this program. School districts, people are confusing fee exemption. There are a lot of exemptions out there with reporting exemptions. Being exempt from the fee doesn't mean you're exempt from reporting it. It just means that we're not going to charge you for that. Awareness. School systems, they have a lot of kerosene and diesel for backup generators in heating schools. A lot of the older ones that we have, this is good stuff to know planning wise. But since they're exempt from paying, they think they don't need to report it. Challenges, there's only one person doing the EPCRA stuff right now. For comparison, Ford is a little bit bigger than us. They have a 5-person staff working. We were two, got cut down to just me. So that is a challenge. And getting the word out. Support, success stories, we have, even being one person, I need some support. And I don't know all the answers, but there's the staff we have contact with in Atlanta, the EPA Region 4. Those people are, I call them my EPCRA nerds. If there's this real convoluted question, I'll be like, hey, let me call you back. I need to look it up. What I do is call them, and they, boom, each time they know the answer. It's scary. But we did have a facility, it's kind of a agricultural distribution, had lots and lots of chemicals out there. And the gentleman just wouldn't report. The county's asking him to, and he blew them off. He wouldn't do it. And so he went back with his area coordinator, me, and the fire inspector. And again, he's like, yeah, I'll get to it. Never did it. I asked him again, and he wouldn't respond to us. And, tens of thousands of pounds of stuff out there that's not being accounted for. I call my buddy in Atlanta. I'm like, hey, here's where we're at. He's like, well, do you want to refer it to me? If you want to refer it to me, I'll be down there tomorrow, and I will impose significant fines. I didn't ask what that number was, but what he said, went an email to this gentleman, and my phone was ringing at 7 o'clock the next morning, and he had his report done before 10 with that significant fine part. North Carolina, we have a good program. It's managed well. Some states just they don't manage the program. They just have like E-Plan do it for them and stuff like that. We've got good outreach. We've got good LEPCs. I think we're doing a good job spending the money. Other states, Florida, like I said, has more employees and looks at it a lot harder than we do. And I'd say it's about the same throughout the southeast of the United States here. Our fee schedule is $90 per extremely hazardous substance and $50 for any hazardous substance you got over 10,000 pounds of. And I think that's fair. That's in NC statute. It's 166A, somewhere in there. Other states charge by the number of employees that a company has. And of course, ours is capped at 5,000 per facility too. There aren't that many that hit the $5,000 cap on there. But moving into here, you've got my contact information. It's up there. I am currently activated as part of emergency management in the North Carolina infrastructure breakouts, but I'm working from home. But if you contact me through my email, that'd probably be the best thing to do. And I'll get back to you as soon as possible and entertain any questions.
All right, this is Terry Albrecht, and I'm going to be helping out with the questions. Thank you, Josh, so much for that presentation. I want to encourage anyone who would like to ask a question to type it in the question box, but we have a few to start. So, Josh, first question, what are some of the common mistakes you see with Tier 2 reporting? Oh, Josh, I think we've lost your audio. I'll give them just a minute to get their audio back online here.
Hello, everyone. We're back again. Green Square Phone Systems is just not cooperating with us today. I had asked Josh, though, prior to losing the signal, what common mistakes do you see with Tier 2 reporting?
The most common mistake is lead acid batteries. That's what a lot of people are reporting on. You have a couple of options, but as long as you don't have any lead or sulfuric acid outside of those batteries, you want to report the battery as a mixture. Report it as a lead acid battery containing lead and sulfuric acid. That way, it's only going to charge it's only going to charge you $90 instead of $140. And the EPA put out some guidance saying that's how it's supposed to be done moving forward. E-Plan can be tricky, especially the first time you use it. It's not the most intuitive system, but once you get the first one done, moving forward year to year, you can just copy the data and move forward. I'm always available to help anyone do their Tier 2 report. I just say January 1st to March 1st is the filing season. If you wait till the end of February, that's when over half, I want to say 6,000 of our 9,000 filed in the last week of February. You can imagine how busy that makes me just constantly. Call me in January. I'm at my office. I'm ready to help. I'll remote in to you, and we can do it together.
Okay. Thanks, Josh. And can you give us an overview of their new requirements regarding PFAS type materials and reporting for 2020?
Tier 2 is reliant on that EPA lists of lists. So unless there's any updates to that, it will not affect your Tier 2 reporting. TRI, which just recently added provisions for some of those compounds, and that would be, if anyone has a specific question on that, I know the person to call. It's not me on the TRI one.
We have another one, Josh. Should NCRTK reporting at the 500-pound threshold be submitted through Tier 2?
We do not. That is a Department of Labor law. That's a good thing you brought up right there. Their requirements are a lot more stringent than EPCRA. So under that, you've got 55 gallons or 500 pounds, whichever one's lower, for any hazardous substance. And remember, the threshold under 312 EPCRA is 10,000 pounds, and then whatever your EHS may be. You can use, we do not enforce or look at the Department of Labor's law, the North Carolina Right to Know. What we do, if you file all of those in your Tier 2 under E-Plan, you'll be below threshold, so we're not going to charge you for it, but it does fulfill the requirement of the Right to Know Act. I would advise anyone to, yes, definitely please report it in there, but it's not required under the program that I manage.
Appreciate that, Scott. Here's another. A business switched ownership during 2020. Which company is responsible for Tier 2 reporting for the year?
Both companies are equally responsible for that. So what you can do in E-Plan is go through and add a note saying, on this date, the company X switched over to company Y, and here's the report in there. That just kind of frees you both up. This question is asked a lot, and there's no this person with this many days or that. It just plainly states both are responsible for it being done. They both have to do it, but they are both on the hook if it doesn't get done.
What EPCRA training is available or recommended?
There's different levels of training. The most in-depth one, the EPA has a robust website. If you just want to familiarize yourself with it, I would definitely go there and go through their frequently asked questions, because most of the common things that are going to occur, someone else has already asked. They have a good answer laid out with a reference back to EPCRA, where in the law it actually covers what it is. They do have a really in-depth training module, computer-based. It is for people that are going to be doing it a lot, more for like your consultants, or if you're hired to, mainly people like me that kind of live in it. I wouldn't say it's for that average person. It gets really in the weeds on each part of very in-depth. It took me the better part of a week to finish it. It was probably close to 40 hours.
Thanks for that, Josh. Is there a call center or other means to access EPCRA regulation support?
I would definitely go through me. The phone number I have on the screen there, 825-2277, and chances are I can answer it. If not, like I said, I've got that reach back when we got those really tough things or things that haven't been gone through before. There's a lot of exemptions. Sometimes people have questions with those. Definitely give me a shot at it first. And if, like I said, if I can't answer it, I'll find you the person that can.
We really do appreciate your participation in this, Josh. Everyone, thank you for attending today's webinar. There will be a survey to get your feedback when you exit. Please take a few minutes to complete it, as this helps us improve the ESI and to make sure that we are offering information on topics in which you are interested. As I noted at the beginning, an email will be sent with the webinar recording link and PDF file of the presentation slides. Feel free to share with others you know that are interested. Thanks again, everyone, for your time, and stay healthy. Have a good day.